Okay, so let's begin, shall we? Hello and welcome. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dan Candido with Interfacing Technologies, and I'll be your moderator. Let me first thank you for taking the time to attend today's webinar. Before we begin, let's look at a couple items. We want to get to know you better, so please take a moment out to complete the quick 2-question poll when prompted. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the questions module to the right of your screen on your GoToWebinar control panel. Did you miss anything? Well, you'll receive an email in about 48 hours after the webinar with a link to the webinar, a link to today's slide deck, and contact information to view and to share. Let's take a look at today. We're going to start off with a little bit about us, Interfacing Technologies. Then we're going to move on to a live demo covering EPC, Atlassian, JIRA, and essential projects by directional integration. Following that, we'll do a quick Q&A. So Interfacing Technology has been around for 25 years with over 1 million users spanning 17 different industries across 46 countries. We are ISO 27000 certified, we are GDPR compliant, and using Follow the Sun technology, global offices, 24/7 support. We've been featured in Gartner, I'd say the last 8 or 9 years, consistency as a leader in digital twin technologies. EBPPA, operational intelligence, BOS. We are a game changer and continually keep at the top 20 on our solutions. Those solutions are an integrated management system solution, covering everything, including quality management system, BPM, low-code, rapid application, automation, governance, risk, compliance, and finally, enterprise architecture. Well, I'd say let's move on to our poll right now and ask our first question. So feel free, you should have it on your screen. And we'll give it about 30 seconds. Still showing we're collecting responses. That's good, I'm glad to see that. I think we're about ready. So let's move on to the second question. And let's get that one going. And see if anyone's answering. We've got some answers coming in. We're collecting responses. Give it another 30 seconds. And I think we're about done. Great. Thank you very much. So our featured speaker today is Scott Armstrong, Managing Partner with Interfacing Technologies. As we move on to middleware, let's just check in with Scott. Scott, are you on site?
Yeah, hi, Dan.
Hi.
Thanks for the intro. And let's get started. So I see, Dan, you're already sharing a slide. There, it is off focus though. So I'm not sure if everyone else sees that, but only part of the screen is actually showing right now. Maybe just show it like that then.
Do you see it like that okay?
Yep.
Okay, let's do it that way.
Okay, great. So thanks everyone for attending today's webinar. It's going to be a short one. We're going to keep it to 30 minutes. Normally our webinars are about an hour, but we have 2 very specific topics that are going to be focused. Today's demo is really going to be focusing on our new middleware integration manager and what is the value proposition of this new module, is that even though the EPC is fully built on top of an API, meaning everything you can do in the front end of our application, you could do via the API. So that facilitates ease of integration with any third-party system. It's one of the robustness of the application, that everything is available via microservice so that you can actually do any type of integration with the system. However, the limitation of that is when external systems also have an API available, but aren't able to write to the EPC, meaning we can read or edit or create new or update on their application, just like they could to us. However, if neither application can write to the other one, there's a challenge there because we still can't talk, because one needs to talk, one needs to listen. The other challenge is, what if you want to transform the data before actually processing it? What I mean is, when I request it from system A, I may want to process it and then adapt it before sending it into application B. So that's really the core of this middleware application, and the value of it is the backbone of the system deals with all the complexities around integration. What I mean is, no longer do you need to deal with all the edge cases, such as, what if the system is down? Well, what happens? Does it just fail the sync or the update? Or does it go back and check that, oh, the system was down, I wasn't actually able to write the update, so it's going to actually go back and check that in 5 minutes, and then once the system's up, they'll actually ensure that the data is consistent. Other things like, what if an object is locked, right? And I can't actually apply the change. Well, the system, again, will deal with these scenarios. So there's many different types of edge cases that when you get into development of integration with third-party systems, that normally you would have to create this code within the system that you want to integrate with. So what's very powerful about our middleware, that's already taken care of. That's for any system. And the next thing I just want to mention is that it's extendable, meaning today's session, we're really going to be focusing on out-of-box integrations that we've developed the entire stories end-to-end for JIRA, as well as for Essential Project. However, this module can be utilized to extend onto any other systems that you may have in-house. So feel free to speak to your account managers, bring to the table an application that you have in-house that you'd like our team to take care of. And instead of having to do the integration on your own, which could be timely and costly, well, leveraging this module, we can actually fast track that development cycle. So move to the next slide then. So just specifically some of the highlights on the JIRA integration that we're going to be covering that comes out of box with this module is that when you create processes in EPC, once you tag them for JIRA, they'll automatically create epics inside of JIRA. And then as you create tasks within the actual flow of the process within EPC, it'll automatically create all the stories associated to that epic within JIRA. So the power here is, anyone who works with JIRA, is one of the big limitations of JIRA is you really don't have the view based on the scenario, right? It's strong for epics and breaking those down into stories and stories into tasks. However, it limits really the understanding of the if-then based on where you are in the process. And that's the real value that EPC brings to JIRA, is business can work in EPC, which is a business-friendly solution, and allows them to map the processes, capture all the requirements on every specific individual task based on the different routes and scenarios. That will automatically create the epics, the stories, and the breakdown and the relationship between them within JIRA, as well as the link back into EPC. So anyone who's going into development afterwards can actually open up the specific flow to actually understand the scenario whereby they have the detailed requirements associated with that screen based on that task and path. Additionally, is that they stay in sync. So if on the dev side or the product team were to go ahead and update the requirement, maybe based off of a technical challenge that they experience, well, then that will loop back its full round tripping and update the EPC, meaning you have constant communication between business, product, like the BAs, product, and dev, and QA, keeping everyone in sync. So very powerful and bringing the value of that process view. The other thing is it's going to create JIRA numbers so that you can quickly find exactly which ticket it relates to. So that's really the power of the JIRA story. When we're looking at essential projects, for those of you who don't know, is a open source EA product that people are using that is good for managing all of your technical information assets. But where it lacks is really for the business users. And where it lacks is really in terms of all the process requirements and everything related to quality compliance, version control, audit trails, approval cycles, document management. I mean, everything that the EPC really brings to the table. So, but it is good for a repository of, your systems, your metadata, and analyzing this content. But because there's some overlap between the two tools, well, EPC has applications, Essential Projects has applications, and I need those applications to link to my business processes. But IT needs the applications to be able to manage their asset repository. So the value here is when IT creates an application, it automatically creates it in EPC and keeps them in sync. That way I can link our true applications to the processes, me as a BA, without actually having to understand or own the IT side of it. Let IT manage that. But on the flip side, the benefit that IT gains is that once I've made that link, let's say of that asset to that process, automatically it's going to write it back to Essential. So Essential then for IT to know, well, this asset is linked to these 25 processes. So it's again a bi-directional sync, really in reducing the amount of manual effort and any redundancy in terms of effort. So let's dive right into the software now. Let me share my screen. Confirm you could see the screen, Dan?
Yep, looks good. We can see it.
Great. Okay, so currently we're looking at the EPC. So I've created two EPCs here, one in blue for the JIRA Atlassian integration, and just one in red for the Essential integration, just for purposes for simplicity, for you to see what really we're looking at. So the first thing to mention is, you see here I have Oracle as an asset which sits inside of EPC. Well, this same asset actually was created within Essential. So if I were to go actually and update the Oracle, let's say we said it was Oracle Financials, and on top of that, let's go in and actually create a new asset. So I'm the IT department. We've added, let's say we've added Azure to our list of applications. And by doing so, automatically it's triggering tasks to then go ahead and update the EPC side of the house. What I mean by that, you see Oracle Financials, it's already been updated. And if I were to go and look for the other Azure, which I see it's here already, you can see it was just created, you see a few seconds ago, version 001. So not only the name, but the descriptions are also kept in sync. Now, inversely, if I were to go into the process module and go ahead and let's go to, let's say instead of building a process for sake of time, because we're keeping today's demo short, let's copy one and paste it. So it'll be called copy execute test. I'm not going to rename it for now. And now if I were to go into Essential and look for, in their case, you see applications or assets were called composite application provider. And in this case, process is called business process, which I see there's 38. Now, for them, this is just really a flat list of processes. They don't offer, all the hierarchy structure that EPC has, all the interrelationships of all the processes that EPC has, but great for a list of, like I said, your IT assets, associations with the capabilities, associations with the systems. So now that I go into this, you can see immediately copy of execute test has already been created with the description, as well as with the associated role. So it's not only are we creating objects, but their relationships as well, right? Here on copy of execute test, I could quickly see that's the auditor that's responsible, and hence the auditor was created within Essential automatically because roles are managed in EPC. That is the business who manages the roles. And then all the roles are automatically created to Essential, and then it automatically created the link between the role and the process. And the same thing goes for the other modules. What I mean by that is, as you know, in EPC, you can link many relationships, right? You can link, create and link capabilities to the processes, create and link master data to the specific steps and processes. So just to mention, there's multiple levels of synchronization between the systems, meaning if I added master data from systems and linked it to the asset, and then it would automatically create it in EPC's master data module, which then I could then link that master data to the task, and then would automatically create the relationship, in Essentials. So it's really a bi-directional integration. So that's all we're going to touch on Essential very briefly. Let's focus now on JIRA. And in this case, you see here I have a process called Project Charter Review and Approval. So this automatically has been created inside of JIRA, Project Charter Review and Approval, including its description. Now note, one of the powers too that we've already managed for you is it supports full rich text, meaning, colors, bolds, tables, images, and that's very powerful because JIRA does not actually manage rich text. It manages a different type of formatting. So we're actually converting from JIRA's formatting into standard HTML-based rich text editing, back and forth between the tools. So when the project was created, the process was created, it automatically also created all of the stories related to that project and linked them together. So one you'll notice is that the label is EPC because it came from EPC, and it created all of the stories. So if I were to go back here and see submit document, well, on submit document, you see I have the requirement, I have the use cases, I have some test cases. Same thing goes for each activity within the EPC. The requirement, the use cases that were captured, some test cases, so on and so forth. And of course, these are also viewable, right, in the details view. So those same stories, if I were to say submit document, go to that story, you can see it maintains the link to the epic, and we have all the same requirement, the use cases, the test cases, and all of their details. Now, let's go back and create something from zero, just to show you how it actually works. So if I go into here, sales, let's create a new process, call it manage opportunity. And opportunities. One of the new features that came in also in 13, we didn't cover it in the last session, is you do have that option of create and map, which will automatically jump to the mapping. So it saves you some tasks there. Go ahead and set the different roles and responsibilities for the lanes. This is something that isn't new, right? Let's say the sales rep, the sales manager, excuse me, in terms of my lanes. And let's say this was a converted lead, is the start of the manage opportunity process. And let's say this is to opportunity create proposal. And then let's say the manager actually has to review the proposal. And let's keep it short for now. Say that's the end of the process. So the point here is that remember when you're building out big applications, it's not limited to workflow. Meaning, right? If I were to build this in the EPC, well, we could be automating this directly within our own solution, right? The low-code rapid application development platform. But this whole JIRA integration is not specific to automating in our tool. This is around capturing all the business requirements for any automation project, whether it's a major ERP rollout, whether it's a CRM rollout, whether it's replacement of your core banking system, right? It's very complex processes and lots of requirements. And I mean requirements not only at the process flow, but really behind each activity, right? Let's say at the screen level, if then statements, if it's a gold customer, gold equals fast track review as an example. So in, let's say, the reviewing of the proposal, anything that are large orders are fast track. Maybe they're flagged differently for the manager. Maybe additional notifications are sent. Maybe the screens are different. So I'm not going to have time for today's demo to go through and actually write out all the requirements, but right, anyone who's really done this as a BA, it's always the if-then statements on per screen. If this is an international customer versus a national customer, if this is compliance related, then you always have different drop downs, different rules, different paths, so on and so forth. So like I said, I'm not going to go through too much, but it does support full rich text. Say if then, maybe it could be a lot of rules, right? Customer name. If, whatever. I think you get the idea. And for everyone to know, I know that some clients aren't aware, you could always work in full screen mode, right? When you're building out all your rich text, just click on the expand button on any of the rich text screens. It's a lot easier to work. So what's important here though, is within the manage opportunity, we have contact opportunity. So let's close this and actually edit the process and say that the entire process is JIRA, because you have two options. You could either flag specific tasks that also are JIRA related, or we can say the entire process is JIRA. So the way to do that is we created a category called JIRA, and then by flagging it type JIRA, we're going to sync that process within the JIRA, because you might have 1,000 processes in your repository. but it doesn't mean every process is actually a development project, right? That is impacting the other team and needs to be in sync with JIRA for obvious reasons. So by creating it that and tagging it as a JIRA, what it's actually did was, one, it already created in JIRA. I'll show that in a second. And the other thing what it did was, you see it created the JIRA ticket number and tagged it automatically in EPC, as well as created the JIRA link. So you see I have JIRA URL, which is a user-defined attribute. And if I go to this, it brings me automatically to that story within JIRA. So the system automatically will build on the other end. And then from here, I can go ahead and, let's say there was a screenshot. Let's pretend this story related to JIRA. Add in a screenshot. And let's say revised as an example on the JIRA end. And the other thing that you'll notice is, you see here on the JIRA side, when it was created, it actually built the EPC link automatically. So same concept, anyone who's in development could actually click on any process or task and bring directly to that specific object within the EPC, and you can immediately see manage opportunity revised with the associated screenshot, because they've added additional details that were missing related to this epic or story, and could actually really walk themselves through, on both sides of the equation. The other item that you can actually do is the system also supports not only stories between process and tasks, but you may have stories or documentation that you want to generate in EPC, because let's say you're a med tech and all of your documentation must go through very stringent review and approval cycles when releasing a new version. Well, but you manage, right, new development projects within JIRA. So what I can actually do here is, let's create a new story and say that this is a, new capability module, which was a new epic that was added in to EPC. Manage capabilities. Go ahead and add, you see some of the tags within JIRA. So as you notice within JIRA, this isn't standard HTML. This is where I mentioned to you, we've actually did quite a lot of work to be able to convert from rich text to JIRA's rich text formatting and back. So by creating that story, and then same concept, going back into the EPC. Now, because there is no process associated with this ticket, instead, I want that to be created as a document. So we support the creation and sync between not only the processes, but files as well. So it will automatically create the one that we just created, which I called new capability module. So you see it's here already. And by clicking again the link, you see it brings me directly to that story that was created inside of JIRA with the managed capabilities. And if I go into on EPC's end, you see the color and the bold, those tags were actually converted. And the same concept, the JIRA number was created with that link that I showed you can open direct, and same concept, the EPC link was on the other end created dynamically. So very powerful module to keep this in sync, adding major value to be able for business to collaborate with QA, development, product, to keep documentation in sync, to keep requirements in sync, everyone being notified when there's changes, right? So if there was a change done by product because of a system limitation, well, business needs to be notified, so they get automatic notifications, right, in EPC that can trigger those changes. It might need to go through a review and approval before that change is actually accepted. So you can then enforce the robustness of EPC with its review and approval cycles. A lot of value, and think of even in terms of licensing. You know, not everyone has access to JIRA in the company, and we need our business, but all of our business people have access to the EPC, especially those clients, right? Most customers have site licenses. So you're not limited who can work with the EPC, who can create stories, requirements, processes, but that information would all be carried over into JIRA. So very, very powerful solution. Remember, you don't need to automatically create in JIRA, meaning you can put a rule that stories and epics are only created after the content has been published, meaning you can in EPC have two options. In this case, I'm saying sync draft that are tagged typed JIRA, but another option I could say is only sync published processes, epics, stories, same thing with documents that are tagged type JIRA. Why? Because that allows you to leverage our approval cycles. So the governance side of it, meaning before a change is actually sent to development, there's business stakeholders who need to go in and approve those changes, agree on it, and then upon approval, think about the subject matter experts, right? So it will be created automatically. But that's really a lot of the hard collaboration inside of JIRA and limitations that now EPC brings to the table. And for the developers, as I mentioned, it really brings that process view that is really lacking of understanding of the if-then workflows, because the last thing I'll say is it's one of the hardest things for QA to test, because depending on the route, the requirements are all different and they don't know where they are in the big picture and whether or not the actual things that were developed match with the original requirements based on the path, right? Being able to keep that relevance of where am I in the big picture. I'm going to wrap it up here today. I know we're ran a bit 5 minutes over, but we did start a bit late. So Dan, has there been any questions that have been raised?
Yep. And let's keep it on your screen just in case you need to answer any. We've got a couple of questions here. Let me start off with the first one. Can we integrate with our HR system to update the roles?
Yes. So can you integrate with your HR system? Absolutely. But note, what we're delivered in this release was out of box for these two applications, but the module can be used to be extended to other systems. So point is it's not plug and play, right? We need to know what system, what is the API that we're going to be calling. So there is some effort there, but the backbone of the heavy lifting of the work is already done. Things like, think of authentication, secure authentication, of course, around, authenticating, get the token access, doing all that. Then relates to things like I mentioned at the beginning, everything related to all the edge cases. When things don't work, it wasn't available, it was locked, system's down, it couldn't sync. What does the system do? What is the frequency of the sync? How do we map those fields? So what I mean is, in your tool, do you just want to sync the name with the name, or do they have a field called, let's pretend they have a field in their HR tool called job skill sets required for that job title. So we could create a user-defined attribute or another field in EPC and call it skill sets required, and then that could also be synced. So if you understand the concept, is that the backbone is there as the platform, but then per system, we need to align it and do a project to then your specific application to make it production ready.
Great, thank you. Very tight for time, so I've got one more question here though, Scott. Can we integrate with our SAP system to update the KPIs?
So I guess same question, right? It goes along with the last question, HR tool or SAP. It doesn't really matter the system, right? Understood. So in that case, you're just focusing on the performance module versus the HR or the role module, and you're connecting to SAP versus connecting to Salesforce or JIRA or Essential. So it's a project that will, right? We will do that for a service for you to connect it to, we'll need to go through the requirements with you. You know, well, where are we getting the data from? How are we fetching it? Does it need to be processed? What I mean by that is, let's consider a KPI, right? Pretend it was average sales per month. If average sales per month already exists in SAP, there's no processing required because we request average sales per month from the specific API. We have that number, we update the indicator. But let's pretend that doesn't exist. You only have the list of transactions with a date and time. So in that scenario, what we need to do is ask SAP, say, give me all sales between January 1st and January 31st. And then we need to combine them together. Add them up, right, and divide by the number of sales, which will give us the average, meaning that is processing, and then put that into the KPI. So that's why I'm trying to say is that these stories we've fully delivered, that can deliver as a package out of box with no new type of requirements or development or any effort. It's just a question of installation configuration with your applications. But if you want to do the same on another system, all the backbone of the platform exists, and it's then a question of configuring it and clarifying details of your needs.
Great, thank you very much, Scott. I'm going to take over the screen now because we are running out of time. Let's get here, and there we go. Now, are you able to see the full screen?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure it's not.
Well, no, I don't, but now it's cut.
It is, isn't it? Interesting how that is. Okay, you can see it right now though, correct?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So anyways, that was our live demo. I'd like to thank you very much. We are actually quite short on time. So thank you very much, Scott, for your excellent demonstration. That's a lot of information packed into a short bit of time. Very interesting. I'd like to add right now that Interfacing offers digital twin software solution that documents, analyzes, improves, digitizes, and monitors your business processes. More information can be found on our website, interfacing.com. You can contact us as well at sales.interfacing.com. If you do not have EPC, get it today. Fully functional free trial, interfacing.com/free trial. While you're there, hop onto our community website, though, with BPM 2.0 certification free. And if you do already have EPC, go ahead and grab our modeler training. That's free as well. Hop onto the discussion forum, ask questions, answer questions, feel free. And as far as our FAQs goes, hop on, see what you can find. So to close out, I'd like to thank you very much for attending today. And soon after this webinar, you're going to receive a brief survey and an email where you can download and share today's presentation. You'll also have our contact information, so I urge you to reach out if you have any questions regarding your process-based initiatives. With that, I'd like to wish you all a good morning, a good day, or a good evening. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye.